Hi, my name is Cravante Best. I'm here with,
Francis Callan, Georgia Tech football.
and today I'm going to ask him some questions about where he's from, and he's from London. So this is how I'm going to conduct the research. First question, Francis, is when did you first move down here to the USA?
Moved down here when I was 16, 2010, my junior year of high school.
So, how was like the transaction on coming down here? Like, was it easy? Can you tell us some of the difficulties that you had coming down here, or some of the advantages?
The transition was pretty difficult because it's a different country. People here are definitely more open, and I wasn't used to that because London is closed and very, everyone's kept to themselves, so it's very different. The food is different, it's bigger portions over here. The roads were bigger. Y'all driving the wrong side of the car, and the street. And school is different. I mean, because growing up in London, I went to Catholic school because London is a primarily a Catholic state, so a Catholic country. So coming to America, that was my first time integrated with the opposite sex, and also not wearing a uniform.
So, would you say, what year did you come down here?
I came down here in 2010.
2010. So that's around, I guess, your high school year.
Yeah, junior year of high school.
What made you come down here in the first place?
It was family. They wanted to move. They wanted to have something different than London. So I finished school, and they said I finished school in London when I was 16. So they said just move over here and continue high school. So that's what I did.
How was school like down there?
Well, like I said, it was different just because I went to an all-boys school, wore uniforms every day. It was different because it's a Catholic country, so we would go to mass regularly. It was like part of the schedule to go to mass and to study religious education, all that. But overall, the school system is definitely good. It's really solid. It's a solid foundation. So that was the pro to going to school in London.
Oh, okay. So, some things like what was new coming from here that you didn't realize that you had in England, London? Sorry about that.
Can you repeat the question, please?
What was new coming from London that you didn't have in there in London?
I would have to say, well, first of all, my own car. I mean, because everything you do in London, you don't really need a car. It's more so public transportation. The big red bus. So coming from London and always walking everywhere to coming over here and having a car and needing a car to do anything was big. Was a big transition. Because London is so small that everything's close together. It's not spaced out like it is here. So that was one of the things that I had here that I didn't have in London.
Yes, so that's knowing that you're a star football player. How was it different in London rather than USA as far as sports wise?
It was different. It was different because there's not a lot of opportunities to go to college in London. If you're gonna go to college, go to college off of sports, I should say. If you're gonna go to college for sports, it's typically soccer. It's not track or field. It's not basketball. It's not football. And coming over here and playing a sport my senior year, and getting as many scholarships as I did and being as highly ranked as I was, that was definitely a big change from somewhere where you go to school and as soon as you're done with school, you go into the workforce. So that was definitely one of the things that was different for me, and it's a good thing actually too, because I mean, who wouldn't like having education paid for them just because they kick a football, or just because they bounce a basketball. So it was a good transition.
All right. So, knowing that you play football here, and that most of the education is paid for. Do you ever wonder about going back home?
Uh, well, I want to definitely finish education here and, start my family here and everything and, get a job here. But then, of course, I want to be able to buy a vacation home in London so I could, go back every, you know, once a year, twice a year and go stay at that home. But I don't think I'd live there permanently, but I'll go visit my family and stay in the home that I've, bought. And, also where my kids can go learn where their father's from and stuff.
So I know how most people like African descent has different rituals inside their household, which some people maybe have canvases, some might have more candles, and most people just basic, traditions. And most people, is there a certain tradition that your family follow based on where you're from?
Not really, because I mean we're primarily Christian, so anything a typical Christian person would do is what we would do. It's not different.
So is there a different language, or was English your first language?
English is my first language. English is my first language. 'Cause, I mean, I was born and raised in London, so you kind of have to learn English. So it wasn't. There's no other languages I know. Well, I can speak as fluent as I can English. I mean, I know some French and some Portuguese. I don't know it as much as I do my first language, which is English.
Did any, like, not just regarding your family and close family, did any of your family move down here with you as far as from London?
No, it was just me. It was me and my mom and my dad. That's it. They're the only two people that moved here with me.
Okay.
But I do have aunties and uncles from my dad's side that lived here before. So they didn't live in London, moved over, but they lived here already. So that was good to know I had family in other places.
So moving down here, what was the like beneficial areas that you would say that you was like more surprised to see when you were down here? As far as like, I know things are different. You said the cars was different, but what was one of the most shocking things that you've seen down here that you didn't see in London?
Honestly, like to be 100% honest, and it may be a little off, but definitely racism. Like racism is definitely very prominent here than it is in London. Just because London is a huge melting pot of different cultures, different people, regardless of where you're from, you're still kind of, accepted as being from somewhere else, but at the same time, if you're British, you're British. Whereas here, it was definitely one of those things where, I mean, walking around the store and, being followed or being stereotyped because I'm a black football player, just because I'm black, period. That was definitely different for me. It was definitely a shock for me being here because I've never experienced that in my life. So coming here was definitely a strong. It was a strong transition. It was a strong change from my way of life and to how I viewed someone of a different race and to how someone of a different race viewed me. So that's one of the biggest shocks that I'd say I had coming here in London.
Okay. So I know there's a lot of things different from London and from USA, but one thing I'd like to clarify is, I guess, the food. Like, how was the food? Was the food different compared to up there and down here?
Yeah. I mean,